Hello and welcome to the circus.
This high, be the type of shit to keep me up at night. Never short of a breath when I spit my rhymes. For the forms I express every fucking time. Bring me back to the light when I feel it right. This life, something special when I'm on my grind. Never short of the stress when I spit the mind. But of course, never.
Yeah, welcome back into another edition of Friday Fundays. Today, you know it, back to the Underdog. And we'll be doing a Hard Knocks recap at the same time. You know I love my multitasking on Friday Fundays. So the Puppy 3 is live. Definitely loving the Underdog this year. I've been super into it. Got my swag on that they sent me from when I did the Best Ball Mania draft. So make sure you go all the way back and check that episode out. At the same time, make sure you go and sign up to fantasyfootballadviceforum.com. Things are bumping over there. I literally just got off the phone with the founder, Tyler Bradley, and he told me I'm not going to divulge anything as of yet. I'll let him do the honors. Also, breaking the fourth wall. Today is Wednesday. I am pre-recording this show, as I often do. Once we get into the regular season, I won't necessarily be doing live shows. We'll see. I may dabble. But for sure, what I'll be doing is I'll be recording the shows and releasing them on the same day. So if I'm doing a Monday show, I'll be recording it Monday, releasing Monday. If I'm doing it'll be moving to Thursday. So I'll have to figure out a new name for the show. But we'll be doing Thursday shows as well. And same thing, I will be recording them and releasing them the same day so that at least the news that you'll be getting in those videos will be actionable and won't be too outdated. Worst case, couple of hours. So while we're waiting here, we're at the 109. Jefferson Chase, what else is new? Christian McCaffrey, probably Tyreek Hill, maybe Austin Eckler. If it was me, it'd be Austin Eckler. Just predicting the draft picks. No, I wanted to talk about Hard Knocks. Ooh, I've been loving me some Hard Knocks lately. We got episode 2. And right off the bat, we got a mentalist. So shout out to @OzTheMentalist. Make sure you go follow him on Twitter. He was fantastic. So his name is Oz Perlman. The first thing he did was he did this awesome. Oh, it was Bijan. That's spicy. Sorry I cut myself off mid-sentence, but hey, let's just look at that right there. Bijan Robinson actually went 104. So sorry, excuse me for cutting myself off there. So he had Michael Carter. He did this trick where he had Michael Carter predict his number if he could have basically any number in the NFL. And then he had Mecole complete a puzzle, which I thought was really cool. And then the best one of all was he had Rodgers do this it was kind of like a card trick. But then it was it was so weird. He was name an animal that's never been an NFL team, and it's so funny. He did a whole list of giraffe, hippo, blah 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 blah, and I guess for some reason they had picked goldfish, and so when he revealed the card, it was a goldfish. And the reaction of the room was amazing. But one of the best line, I wrote down all my favorite lines of the show, but the best line by far, the reaction to the goldfish reveal.
What if you would have picked a giraffe though?
What if he picked a giraffe though? And oh man, I would have picked Nick Chubb, but he went right before me. So gonna pivot. Wish I had that drop right now. Pivot. That's one I gotta get. Chris Olave. I like me some Olave. Love me some Olave. When the moon hits your eye, that's a big pizza pie. That's Olave. All right. So right after the Mentalist, we got aggressive in Hard Knocks with the training camp fights. I thought that was nice. Just showing, some grit, some toughness, giving some action to Hard Knocks. Shout out to my co-star Rocky back there. I really also the whole episode really highlighted Quinnen Williams and the defense, and the defensive line definitely looks like it's going to be a problem. And Quinnen Williams had another great line where he said, some people are just entitled, or some people are entitled and they just need a slap in the mouth. And his nickname, too, the team nickname for Quinnen Williams, I didn't know was Cue Ball, which I thought was interesting name. Cue Ball, coming down the corner pocket. The other line he had was, it was great. He said, shout out to Optimus Prime. And yes, shout out to Optimus Prime. So Aaron Rodgers, known for the ayahuasca, I got to tell you guys, I have not done ayahuasca, but I have done DMT. And DMT is essentially like the short version. It's like a 15-minute thing, but it's kind of similar-ish. And it's funny because, I think it was like the second or third time I did it. When I was coming out of it, you're still like in this phase where you're very much almost like it's comparable to like acid and then mushrooms as it's mushroom acid going into it, and then like a whole otherly world experience I can't even begin to describe on this show. But as you're coming back out, it reverses back into acid mushroom, and as I'm like coming back out of it, on screen it was I can't remember which I think it was Transformers 2 if I had to guess, but at the end of the movie, Optimus Prime's giving this like beautiful speech of like, I've got you, the world is secure, everything is going to be okay. And I just was like literally touched and moved by Optimus Prime. So yes, shout out to Optimus Prime. And then after that, just so you know, like Quinnen Williams dominated camp. He dominated the joint practice. He dominated the game. It was funny in the joint practice. I'm skipping ahead here, but since it was about Quinnen Williams, he kept saying, I got 10 sacks. I got 10 sacks. I think I got 10 sacks there. And then it was funny. Aaron Rodgers watched him get one more. He's like, that's 11. And then speaking of Aaron Rodgers, pivoting back around now, Rodgers with the play fakes. So like they're in the film room basically, and all the other quarterbacks are sitting around. So it's like Zach Wilson, and apologies, I'm forgetting the third quarterback's name now. I think his last name's Boyle. It's not Tim Boyle though. That's like a different person, I feel like. Anyways, apologies to Mr. Boyle. But they're all sitting around essentially. And so it's like whoever's play fake is up on the screen. So they show two images. You have to guess which one is the run, which one is the pass. So the whole point is you got to suss out the run to see if like the defense would be able to spot it coming. And when they're doing Rodgers comparisons, like half the time, obviously, like they can't tell which is which because, Rodgers is so good at it. And honestly, Zach Wilson, just big smile on his face, trying like dissecting, breaking down which he thought was the run, which he thought was the pass. He looks like he's having fun. It's just nice to see, honestly. And then it was funny because like the Rodgers like pulling up pieces of grass and like rubbing between his hands, and someone asked Alan Lazard, his former teammate, like, why does he do that? Alan Lazard had the best answer. He just says, oh, he do lots of stuff. Just let him do what he do, because the way he throw the ball, it don't matter. And it's like, yeah, if you have Aaron Rodgers on your team, that's pretty much all good. And then, so, another nice moment was Rodgers and Bryce Young before the game. They had a moment, and it was funny because, Bryce Young mentioned that, yeah, Andy Dalton, I've been asking him a million questions. And so it's something that I think is easy to forget, but having that veteran presence, and, I understand Andy Dalton is not Aaron Rodgers, but Andy Dalton was a competent starting quarterback that was kind of a franchise quarterback in Cincinnati and has been successful before. This is an interesting dilemma here. You know what? I'm going to go with the upside of Christian Watson here. We're going to go upside with Olave Watson. So we'll have to take some safer picks later to compensate for that. I could have gone Terry McLaurin there. I was really thinking about it because death taxes and 1,000 yards by Terry McLaurin. Plus, both the quarterbacks are looking at least like decent, like, competent starting quarterbacks for the most part, at least. So I've always liked Terry McLaurin, but I like him even more this year. And especially in this range where it's like DeAndre Hopkins, unfortunately if Treylon Burks is actually hurt, that could present a problem because then he doesn't have anyone pulling coverage away from him. Drake London, it's the same upside thing. And then, Mike Williams falls like a comet to the ground every time he tries to catch the ball. And that's why he's always, unfortunately, getting injured. I think he's a tremendous player, but he has had a propensity to get injured in the past. One of the other things that was really funny to me was, so there was this moment on Hard Knocks with Josh McCown where he's talking to Sauce Gardner, and he says to him, because he's like, I played, 18, 19 years in the league. He can't even remember that's how long Josh McCown played. And he says to Sauce, if I was still playing now, though, I'd throw you one, meaning like I'd be throwing an interception. So I thought that was funny. There was also this funny moment where Jake Delhomme mentioned that Aaron still looks like he's throwing in like he's in slow motion, like just the way that he performs, he looks spectacular still. So, I mean, I understand it's Hard Knocks. Obviously, they're going to frame it in a positive light. But, there's been, they had a moment where they highlighted the first joint practice. And Robert Saleh, honestly, was, like, upset about it. And he called out. He basically said, like, the defense was on point. Quinnen Williams was killing it. The offense looked like crap. The offense was missing something, and then he straight went in and chewed out the offensive line. He's like, no matter if we have Aaron Rodgers, offensive rookie of the year out wide, awesome running back room, all these wide receivers, none of it matters if the offensive line isn't putting in first and foremost the effort. And it's like, you can tell. That's where the battle is. Football is won in the trenches. Like, you hear that all the time. They're talking about the battle between the offensive and defensive line. Who is putting in that effort? Who's getting the push? And when you consistently see it, like in practice, that carries over into the game. And I get it. The Allen Iverson meme of practice, some absolute superstar players are exceptions to that rule. They are an absolute 1 percentile. For the most part, the saying goes, if you practice like shit, you play like shit. So we're coming up with a pick here. Let's go ahead and evaluate this because I haven't really been talking too much about the draft here. And this is where I feel like you have to actually make like tough decisions. we want? We said we needed some safety. Let's go with Deontay Johnson because I just feel like he's going to be a target vacuum. I like the touchdown upside and potential of George Pickens, but Deontay Johnson to me is the more safer PPR option, and I think nicely rounds out that wide receiver room. Now, it is a little concerning that I've got all Najee, Christian, and Deontay on a bye week 6, but it's an early bye, so I can just eat it. It's not that big of a deal. We've got a good core starting out here. I was surprised Austin Eckler fell to me at 9. I thought that was an easy decision. And I get to pair him with Najee Harris, so I feel like I got a strong running back room to start. And then I was able to get the upside of Chris Olave and Christian Watson and pair that with the safety of what I expect to be the volume and then, positive touchdown regression. He's not going to get 0 touchdowns again for Deontay Johnson. And, it's interesting. I have a lot of ways that I could pivot here. Jordan Addison. It's not concussion protocol. He'll be fine by season start. I really like Jordan Addison here. I would have loved Darren Waller. He went right before I could take him, though. Do I want to go with a quarterback here? Possibly. But yeah, we're going to do it. We're going to try to do it. Yeah. Oh, nope. Auto draft. Maybe someday I'll take my own advice. Remember, go shout out to one of my prior episodes. I did basically draft advice. And one of the things, the number 2 rule was set a queue. And obviously I didn't do that. But we ended up with Chris Godwin, which I don't hate for this team. It's always funny. It's like when you get auto-picked and you immediately start having to justify the pick after. But it's like, look, for this team, yeah, Chris Godwin actually kind of fits because Godwin and Johnson give me those safe PPR floor weeks. And then Olave and Watson give me those high spike, high T breakout potential weeks. And when you pair that together in best ball, that's a winning formulation. And especially when you combine it with, now I've got Austin Eckler and Najee Harris. So we're going to have to do some work here for our quarterbacks. We're going to take the wide receivers off the board here because I got 4 really strong wide receiver. I definitely feel like I can ignore that for at least a couple rounds while I build out my onesie positions of quarterback, tight end, and add depth to my running back room, which I'm going to be able to rely primarily, obviously, on Austin Eckler and Najee Harris week to week, barring injury. But I still would like to obviously add a little bit of depth as well because it's running backs, and unfortunately, shit happens. So a couple last notes here from Hard Knocks. We'll wrap up that entanglement section of the show. One of the things that I really appreciated, and I think Aaron Rodgers' cattiness is something that gets on people's nerves, but it's something that I see more as competitive fervor, especially in situations where it was like, the play wasn't working well, and Aaron Rodgers basically says like, maybe we'll learn that play sucks in that formation. Maybe we'll learn. Just kind of very dry and sarcastically. It's like, say what you want about Aaron Rodgers, but I love that kind of like dry, cynical, satirical type of humor. So it strikes a chord with me, and I can understand why certain people don't enjoy it, especially if it goes over their head and they're taking what he says literally. But I think he's just being acerbic, and in certain situations, especially like, he's been in the league for so long. that's another theme that was recurrent, is like just how many people in the league Aaron Rodgers knows, whether it's referees, coaches on other teams that he previously worked with, other players. Just, and another thing that I think has been prominent and obvious through this Jets training camp is that Aaron Rodgers would be an excellent coach. Whether I don't know about necessarily being a head coach, but certainly as like in the quarterback room. Oh man, if Trevor Lawrence could have made it to me there, that would have been just nice. But yeah, Aaron Rodgers, like working as a quarterbacks coach, and even as high as offensive coordinator. And honestly, I could even see him being take Anthony Richardson, take some upside here, and we'll pair him with a safe pick a little bit later on. All right, so yeah, sorry, I could see Rodgers even ascending as high as offensive coordinator. Because just the way that he mentors, especially young quarterbacks, like Zach Wilson through the entire episode looks lighter. He just literally looks like 10 pounds lighter. He even, again, one of the best lines, he said, because he had like the sleeve on and people were commenting on it, and Aaron Rodgers kind of gave him the look, and he was asking, what do you think? And then when Rodgers kind of gave Zach Wilson that, he's like, oh yeah, I got dad's approval on the swag. So like what kind of relationship it is if he's out here calling him dad. Oh man, you know what? In honor of Hard Knocks, let's just take Dalvin Cook. Why not? Why not take Dalvin Cook here? The team gave Dalvin Cook a little chunk of money. He's a former All-Pro. If he's healthy, I think he's going to be a big part of the offense, especially earlier in the season. And I can take the risk on him because I have Austin Eckler and Najee Harris. I feel like that's very safe. Though I'm kind of wishing I would have took Pat Freiermuth, but that's okay. He might make it back to me, and if he doesn't, I can always take David Njoku. And then the last couple lines here. So one of the things that happened during the preseason game, and I can almost kind of understand out of context, okay? And again, walking into a new situation, I can see how Nathaniel Hackett may not have necessarily worked out as a head coach. Because when you're the head coach, you're like the one, like, Robert Saleh has all kinds of great lines. He's a very strong presence. And he delegates well. That's honestly one of the things I really noticed was, like, even in the preseason game, he wasn't calling plays on defense or on offense. He delegated that to his offensive and defensive coordinators. And he gave suggestions. Like, even there was one point where he jumped on the headset with Nathaniel Hackett and said, like, hey, this would be a good point. I don't want to like tell you how to run the game, but like me personally, like I would like to see a little bit more of the run here. I just feel like let's lean on him. Let's let the offensive line kind of like, it's been a long week for them. Let's kind of let them just like scrape and get some ground running in. And you saw them make that shift in the game plan. So just having that like overall purview and very much being in tune with the clock management, the timeouts, the overall arc of the entire game, not just being focused on one aspect of it. That was definitely something I noticed in Robert Saleh. But getting away from all that, it's also like a lot of it is like obviously what you say and like how quotable you are. And Nathaniel Hackett said this weird thing where it's like after the Zach Wilson I can't remember if it was like a long drive or if it was after the touchdown, but he was like, oh, you turned me on that one. And it's like, if you're not like really familiar with and Zach Wilson kind of reacted in like the way that you would if this was like your first year offensive coordinator, which it is for him. But like that's where it's like, if you have that kind of relationship with Aaron Rodgers, and because you've known him for a long time and you joke that way, sometimes that familiarity, you almost get lost in it to where you carry it over to other relationships, not realizing like, no, people aren't going to respond to me in the same way that I'm expecting, and I actually need to adjust how I'm behaving in certain situations. It doesn't mean that you're changing who you are, but it's, just having tact. Like, it's common sense. So I can see how, like, certain things like that, and then certain quirks, like in the last episode I talked about, he's really into like the gold member references, and I could see how that could either be hit or miss with certain people. Oh man, watch, I'm gonna get sniped, Pat Freiermuth, right here. This is gonna hurt my soul. Please take literally anybody else. Watching the timer. Yes, victory. The Muth is gonna get loose. Good Lord. Oh my God. He had no tight end too. That never happens. Oh my God. I thought for sure. You see the clock ticking down. The Muth is at the top of my little list here. Granted, I don't have the wide receivers right now, but he had no tight end. So just like, man, that's victory lap. That made the whole draft. I don't even care if I have all the Steelers. I'm a big Steelers fan, obviously, so this is a little bit of a homer draft, I guess, for me. But, man, I'm juiced now. I feel great. Because I feel like Pat Freiermuth, I feel like the pecking order really is Deontay Johnson, George Pickens between the 20s. But once it gets down to the red zone, the pecking order becomes Freiermuth and then Pickens. And even in between the 20s, Freiermuth is like, he offers like a safety blanket. Oh man, we're gonna have to. Oh, interesting. So very interesting. Let's see which quarterback goes here. I might take Daniel Jones here. I'm very high on Daniel Jones this year, but he goes. Now we get sniped. That's okay. I'm still taking a victory lap on Pat Freiermuth, and it's a second quarterback. Oh, I'm really not into Kirk Cousins this year. You know what? I need the safe option, though. Do we do it? Fine. I really haven't enjoyed. I haven't drafted Kirk Cousins at all, and the reason is because, like, yes, the stats are inflated, but like, go look at the game logs. 7 times last year, he was under 20 fantasy points, and it's like, unfortunately, when Kirk Cousins has a spike week, it goes in the opposite direction. And even if you look back over the last 2 years, he's only had like maybe 2 to 4 games or something like that where he's been over 400 yards. And in the same respect, he's only had like a couple, like 2 to 4 games where he was over 3 touchdowns. So generally he offers a safe floor, but he doesn't give you like the crazy spike weeks that you would think of from like a Mahomes or a Justin Herbert. And he does, but the thing is, he also can absolutely kill your week. It's not like, oh, he's just always, no matter what, he's going to get me 20 points. Like, if he was forever, eternally getting you 20 to 30 points, but never 50, I would almost understand and be okay with that. Like, again, pairing what I did with the upside of Anthony Richardson. But like, it's been the story of his whole career. I mean, we make the joke about how he craters in prime time, but it's like, it's not just that. It's just when he has bad weeks, they are real bad, like ugly. So I keep saying last notes. my very last notes actually for Hard Knocks. The rookie show was an absolute and utter disgrace and failure. Veteran linebacker CJ Mosley even stood up at the end when it was like, that was trash. I don't think he said that exact words, but he was like, y'all are going to have to run that back, basically, because it was bad. It was real bad. And the worst of the worst, Zach Kuntz, rookie tight end for the Jets. I'm sorry, my man. Learn how to read a room. This man came in with a Kahoot questionnaire that was like 20 questions long, and he was like almost like no presentation skills. He was like, oh yeah, this is like a thing, like if you participate, we'll give like $100 first place, $50 second place, $20 third place, or something like that. It's like, bro, $100. The lowest guy on this team who's not gonna make the roster is, like, if he does happen to make the roster, he's gonna get paid $800,000. Like, my man. And then even like, they were ripping it like as soon as it started. As soon as they realized that it was gonna be like 20 questions long, they were like, they literally got booed off the stage. It was hilarious, man. Worst fail in the history of Hard Knocks and in the history of rookie shows. Like, bring back rookie hazing specifically because the Kahoot was that bad. Ooh, look at that. Nice juicy pick right there. Roschon Johnson. Start adding a little bit to the running back room here. And we can add the wide receivers back in at this point. Might take even a third quarterback very late, but we'll see. I don't really feel like I need one. With Richardson already being named the starter, I just feel like they're both going to have down weeks, and it's just hopefully those weeks don't happen at the same time. Tank Bigsby went right after Roschon. I was kind of hoping that he would actually slide to me there, but no such luck. Adam Thielen could be very interesting here. Thielen already looks like very involved in the preseason game, even though Bryce Young only went 2 for 4. When he was looking for a first down, he was looking for Thielen. When he's going to be in the red zone, he's going to be looking for Thielen. Bryce Young is hooked on a Thielen, and obviously he's a veteran, and he was declining. I get all that. I think you get juice from being in a new situation. Think about any time you've been at a job for a long time and you change jobs. Those first couple of weeks, especially you're juiced, like you're putting in your A effort. And obviously, Thielen's a consummate professional, and even last year, the touchdowns were down, but he still had 70 receptions. He's gonna be involved, and in a best ball format where I'm not having to guess when I'm gonna have to start him, that's where I really love him. And again, we went very high upside, high risk, and you can argue that Chris Olave is safer, but he still is going to be a sophomore, and we're expecting sophomore breakout. If Michael Thomas is actually healthy and comes back to full form, what if Michael Thomas ends up stopping a lot of the targets from Chris Olave, and we find ourselves lamenting that Chris Olave isn't getting enough work? That's a hypothetical situation that could exist in the future. I'm not saying it's going to happen or even hoping it's going to happen, but I'm just saying when you take that kind of, again, he's a sophomore, and I think he's excellent. I think he's going to have a breakout, or I wouldn't have drafted him as highly as I did. But you have to be able to see the other flip side of okay, the risk is Michael Thomas is a lot more involved than I think. Alvin Kamara, when he comes back, is more involved than I think. And suddenly Chris Olave is only seeing 5 to 7 targets. If that happens, that's obviously a bad thing for fantasy. So the way that I mitigate some of that risk in best ball, where I'm not having to, again, guess my starts, I can mitigate that risk by taking safer guys like Deontay Johnson, Chris Godwin, and Adam Thielen later, where it's like those guys to me have like safer PPR floors. And Thielen, especially in the first half of the season, I definitely think Young is going to be leaning on him as a veteran target. And if it's not Bryce Young, it's going to be Andy Dalton, and Andy Dalton's probably going to do the same thing. So no matter who's basically the quarterback for Carolina, I think ultimately Adam Thielen is going to have a lot of value early in the season. Now, I do think ultimately by the end of the season, the trio of Mingo, DJ Chark, and Laviska Shenault could potentially overtake him, but he'll still be involved, maybe just less so by the end of the season, barring injury. But I really think Thielen could be due for like a low-key bounce-back season. I'm not saying he's going for 1,000 yards, 10 touchdowns or anything, but I could easily see him having like another 70 receptions, another 800 yards, and another 8 or 9 touchdowns. And again, for my wide receiver 5 in best ball, that's great. Man, Sam Laporta made it all the way back to us here. That's interesting. That's very interesting. Ugh, and he goes one pick before us. Well, we were so happy when we got Freiermuth. Now that's twice we've gotten sniped. That's karma for cheering too loudly. So you know what? I'm actually going to take a third quarterback here because I'm going to take Derek Carr as a safe option. And now I'm done with quarterback. That's over. Goodbye, quarterbacks. And there's still plenty of second tight ends that I would take here. And in fact, I see one here in Cole Kmet that if he makes it to me, that's going to be my pick. And of course, literally, as soon as I speak it into existence, Cole Kmet gets taken off the board. Oh man, Chig is sliding way too far, actually. If Chig slides, no, this guy's going to take Chig. Watch right here. I just said it like, oh, I want Chig. Well, of course, it's going to go right here. It's going to tick down 15, 14, make me wait for it to watch it. God, it's frustrating. And he's at the top. Oh, we went with Dulcich. Yes. This could actually end. These guys both have 2 tight ends. I don't think they're going to be looking at Chig. Ooh, man. Chig in the 14th. That's a value. I still very much believe in the Chig breakout season, and especially if now, shout out to fantasy doctor Jesse Morse. Go follow him on Twitter. But I had seen him posting about earlier how the Treylon Burks injury likely will be more on the minor side and could be potentially 2 to 6 weeks. But if it causes him to miss any part of the regular season, it's going to be DeAndre Hopkins and Chig. So Chig goes right back to being the number 2 that everyone essentially was expecting him to be. So I've got a lot of correlation going in this draft. I'm really loving this draft for myself. Even though the Godwin pick was inadvertent, that almost actually turned out to be a blessing in disguise. So just recapping here, and we're only recapping. Let's go check in on the draft board and see what other teams we really like here. Oh man, AJ Brown, Nick Chubb, that's a great start. Love that. Ramondre falling all the way to the 3rd. That's nice. Justin Fields, that's a nice pick. I mean, TJ Hawkinson in the 5th at that point, I don't hate it. It was a late 5, too, is 5'11". I'm not sold totally on TJ Hawkinson, but I don't hate it. And then the rookie upside of JSN, Quentin Johnson, Zay Flowers. He just took all the rookies. Rashad Penny, Geno Smith. That's a nice little correlation. Darnell Mooney. I like that. He was the one that stole Cole Kmet from us. So just for that, I think Zed5273. Zed's dead, baby. Zed's dead. But you also had the best team in the draft, I think, barring my own, obviously. Oh, well, Kendra Miller. I have not drafted very much Kendra Miller, to be honest, because I struggle with a rookie coming in with a knee injury who has missed basically all of training camp, all of preseason, and now has another knee injury. Even if it's considered minor, even if they're saying he's going to suit up, it definitely is not. It doesn't bode well. We'll see. Maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like there's a lot of risk involved. I mean, how much risk are you taking at the 14.2, though? Does it really matter? If it doesn't work out in the first couple of weeks, you drop that pick, move on, make adjustments. So this is where it's like these last 4 picks really don't even matter. I mean, it would be nice, if you're this amazing prognosticator and you're able to hit. Now, this is great. I'm doing a best ball, so I don't get to make those changes. But this is like in a redraft format, obviously, that I'm talking about, where you're dropping and adding players. Like, the draft is not where you win your fantasy leagues. You definitely can set yourself up for major success, but you win your league by playing out the year. I had a year where I was in a 16-team league. I started out 2-5. My team was the absolute pits. And it's like, in a 16-team league, good luck with waivers and that kind of stuff. I managed to put together a win streak on the back of David Johnson's magical year and spot starting like absolute randoms. Like I had to put in Capri Bibbs 1 week when he was with the Broncos, and that week I got lucky and he hit a 69-yard touchdown. It was like basically his only play of the day. So you just have to, be able to adjust, and I'm going to adjust that week 13 bye. I love so many players with that same. Oh, I don't have any wide receivers with it, though. So let's go ahead and take Hunter Renfrow here. Hunter Renfrow is just being so disrespected. This man was coming off his best season. He was doing just as good last year until he got injured. Came back in week 18 when everyone was checked out because most people end their fantasy championships then. And had another great game. And now he's got Jimmy Garoppolo, who's going to love to use him in the short game. Like, I understand that Devontae Adams is there, but Darren Waller is not. So there is Devontae Adams is not going to get 300 targets. He's going to get 180, and the other 120 are going to have to go somewhere else. 300 is obviously on the very low end. If you're talking about NFL, it's usually more like 400 or 500 passing targets total. So I think Hunter Renfrow is going to get work. He's the second wide receiver on that team, and he's the best pass catcher not named Devontae Adams. You know what? Let's take Jawan Johnson here. He's having a nice little training camp. I know they signed Jimmy Grandpa, which is hilarious. They really love their tight ends. They got a whole host of tight ends there. They got Jimmy Grandpa. They got the quarterback converter, Taysom Hill. They got Foster Moreau, who I really love his story. And he played with Derek Carr before. But I think out of all of those players, Jawan Johnson is the most talented and has potential. And in the 16th here, where I'm like, I'm just going to have him round out my tight end room so that it's like I've got Pat, I've got Chig, and I've got Jawan. Between the three of them, I'll just take their spike weeks. Frymuth, I feel like, gives me a floor. And now, literally, just looking at running back and wide receiver to close this thing out. We only got a couple picks left here. 2 more picks. Let's scroll down and see who we might be looking at here. Ty Chandler, I think, has established himself as the backup, barring obviously a signing. Could take Leonard Fournette here. And just the only thing I don't like about Leonard Fournette is that if he doesn't sign, it's like an automatic 0. And taking automatic 0s definitely is one of the biggest, easiest ways to lower your chances in best ball. So that's never really something I enjoy doing. I do like John Mechie's story. I feel like I want to take almost like 2 running backs. It's funny because I so often at this point of the draft in best ball would have taken Michael Carter and Abanaconda, but now they signed Dalvin Cook, who I just drafted. So maybe I'll only take Michael Carter as a handcuff because I love Michael Carter. I love his personality, and I think he offers a tangible skill set in the passing game that is different from the rest of the running backs. Ooh, Snack Hollins, that's one of my favorite last round picks because besides Mac Hollins, you go ahead and name me the second wide receiver in Atlanta. Don't worry, I'll wait. Yeah, I can't think of it either. So I really love, I obviously like the target pie of that passing game in total is going to be very small, but it's going to be very concentrated. I think Mac Hollins definitely going to have spike weeks. I'm not trying to have to figure out when I want to start him in redraft, but I really love him in best ball. And man, I love just, having a player that it's funny to me almost where I can be like, I loved the quotes that he had of like, I don't like soft people. Eat with your hands. Utensils are soft. That kind of stuff makes me laugh. Malik Davis, I know everyone loves Deuce Vaughn, but I think Malik Davis could still very well have a role in this backfield. Abanicana, don't want none unless you got run, son. Melvin Gordon, that's really gross. I think we are just about done here. Let's see. Who's it gonna be? So our second to last pick. Yeah, I feel like I'm just gonna take. Oh. Okay, fine. I love Michael Carter. Obviously, the Dalvin Cook signing really hurts him. But if Dalvin Cook gets hurt, or if Breece Hall isn't all the way back, or were to get hurt again, which would be really sad and unfortunate, Michael Carter to me is like the main backup and the main handcuff. So if I'm going to take a handcuff this late, I'm going to take Michael Carter. He also has just pass catching upside where it's like some weeks he could just like catch 5 passes and a touchdown and have a spike week that helps me. For the most part, I'm going to be just relying on my 2-headed workhorse running backs of Austin Eckler and Najee Harris. And then, hopefully Dalvin Cook, Roschon, and Michael Carter can pepper stuff in for me. Not the best running back room, that's for sure. I really love this wide receiver room. With the upside of Olave and Watson, and then having like the safe fours of Johnson, Godwin, Thielen, Renfro, and we'll take a couple spike weeks of Snack Hollins here at the end. Also, because I don't like soft players, so I want someone hard on my team. So I'm going to take Snack Hollins. Plus, he just looks like a monster. He almost looks like he's like a tight end. He's as big as Kyle Pitts out there. You know he's going to have some spike weeks catching touchdowns. He could actually low-key have a career season. And I'm pretty sure I'd have to check the stats. I feel like he's coming off of a career season. So, just shout out to Mac Hollins. I think he could be a thing. The quarterback room, excellent. I feel like that's where we really hit our mark. Kirk Cousins and Derek Carr, that's basically as safe as it gets. Complement that with the spike weeks of Anthony Richardson. In the tight end room, same thing. I feel like Pat Freiermuth is a safe floor, and I get to pair that with the upside of Chig and Jawan Johnson. Generally, I usually in these formats would only take 2 quarterbacks and 2 tight ends. But in this situation, I'm, kind of insulating myself for injury. The only problem is, like I mentioned, the running backs. That's where I could have been a little bit stronger. But with Roshan, it's like I'm expecting him to come on late as opposed to early. And obviously, being a rookie, I'm not looking at him with an injury risk. And then Dalvin Cook and Michael Carter, it's like I'm pairing that backfield. And yes, I know I'm ignoring Breece Hall. Unfortunately, to me, the signing of Dalvin Cook means that Breece Hall's not going to be ready to work back to a full role within the first couple of weeks, weeks 1 to 3, basically. He'll get worked in. It'll start to be more of maybe a 50-50 split, where it could leave Michael Carter, on the outside looking in, waiting until someone gets injured. That's that risk that I was saying about taking him as a handcuff. But I do feel like even though Banaconda got nice run in the preseason, to me, Michael Carter has established himself enough to be the backup. So that's where I'm at with the Jets. That's where I'm at with this draft. And that's where I'm at with this show. Thank you so much for joining. As always, go sign up to Fantasy Football, adviceforum.com. It is popping over there. There is so much cool stuff that is coming down the pipeline. So be an early adopter and get in there and meet all kinds of cool people, and then have a bunch of cool stuff that is coming on the way. Catch you all on the flip side.
Is this the dagger? Game! Series! Toronto!